Hey guys, I'm Drew, the Helium Noob. Thank you for joining me today. I want to go through how to properly install the RAKwireless 8 dBi fiberglass antenna. Before I jump into my setup, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the alerts. That way you can get all of my content as I release it. I will be putting up the links to all the components I talk about today in the video description below. You can also find those links on my website, heliumnoob.com. I'm not sponsored by any of the companies for these parts, however some of them are affiliate links. So if you're going to purchase any of these exact parts, please show your support and use my links. Also, if you like my content and want to help me with producing it, please consider donating to my channel through the link in the About My Channel section. I greatly appreciate it. Let's go, noobs. So first, so I don't have to explain and record this while I'm on a ladder 20 feet in the air, what I've done is kind of made a setup in my basement. So I put this piece of wood on the wall. So let's assume that this right here is the peak of my house. This is where I want to install, right? So before we get into the actual installation, let's go through the tools that you need to get this job done. First thing you're going to need is a tall ladder. Once again, I'm going to be 20 feet in the air when I'm doing this for real on my house. So I'm going to have a huge extension ladder that I'll be putting up there. Also, we're going to be properly grounding this system, so I have to pound an 8-foot grounding bar into the ground. So you're going to need a little bit of a shorter ladder. So I got a 5-foot ladder that I keep around too for little jobs like that. Those are pretty much the big things that you're going to need. Now some of the small hand tools that you'll need, just a Sharpie or a pencil or whatever you got to make some marks. You're going to need a drill with a nut driver on it. You know, a socket set, a wrench, Phillips head screwdriver, wire strippers, wire cutters, and a small sledgehammer. Now let's go through all the components that you need to complete this job. First thing that you're going to need is a mount. What I did is I went on Amazon and I found a 22-inch universal TV antenna mount. This is basically what it is right here. Comes in a box. It's got these bolts on here so you can change the angle of your antenna arm. The arm also comes with some U-bolts and the clamp brackets that you're going to use to connect the antenna to the actual mount. In addition to that, you need some hardware to put that onto the wall. So what I have here, this is just some self-tapping. These are actually for sheet metal roofs. So they have a little weather seal on them. That way it keeps any weather out. So those work real good. Then you have the antenna, right? So we got this, again, the RAKwireless 8 dBi fiberglass antenna. Okay. This is the antenna itself. It comes with a male end type connector. The package also comes with some hardware. So you got the U-bolts, and then you also have another set of clamps. Okay. And then it comes with a feeder wire as well. Now, in my specific setup, I'm actually not going to be using the U-bolts from either one of these kits, and I'm also not using this feeder line. So we can set those aside. Next, let's talk about some smaller hardware that you're going to need. I got 1/4-inch carriage bolts that are 5 inches long. You need 2. You're going to need some washers. I got 4 of them. 4 nuts. And 2 lock washers. Okay. Now in Michigan, we are subject to weather in the summertime, so a lot of times we'll have storms and stuff like that. So you always want to make sure that you properly ground this antenna. So what I have is a lightning arrestor with a ground connector on it. So this is going to actually hook to that, and like I said, we're going to run that to the grounding bar. I got 12 gauge solid copper ground wire. Now for my setup, I need just under 50 feet in order to do that. So I got a spool of 50 feet. This you can buy cut to length. You can get different kinds of lengths. Okay. You need your grounding bar, clamp. This is what clamps the wire to the actual ground bar. Now, in my next video, I'm actually going to do a time lapse of me doing this outside for the real install. But something I want to point out real quick, a little trick I learned last time I was trying to do a grounding bar. A lot of people will take their grounding bar and they'll start whacking away and pounding this thing into the ground, and next thing you know, the top of your ground bar is pancaked over, right? And now you can't get your clamp on it. So always make sure you put your clamp on first and clamp that down before you start pounding this into the ground. That way you can just loosen it, put your wire in, and you're good to go. Otherwise you create yourself a mess because again, you'll pancake that as you're hitting it. Last couple little things here is just some self-tapping screws. I use these with my mounting cable ties. These come in handy, and basically what you do is once you've ran your wire, then you go back through it and you screw this into the wall, and then you can zip tie your wires. It kind of holds everything tight, and I'll show you how to do that. And then the last thing is going to be your LMR 400 antenna wire. Now, like I was telling you, there's the feeder wire that actually comes with the antenna. I'm not using this. Mainly because I wanted something beefier. I needed something longer, and because I'm putting a lightning arrestor on it, the fittings on that actually will not work with my setup. So what I did is I found this company called MPD Digital. It's a pretty cool website. What they do is they build up custom length and custom connectors, so you can get this to whatever length you want and whatever connectors you need for your specific setup. Again, those links will be in the descriptions and on my website at heliumnoob.com. So I have the RAK Hotspot version 2, which has a female RPSMA connector on it. So I had to get a male RPSMA connector to a female N-type connector. So this goes into my arrestor, into the antenna, so on and so forth. Now the things that I don't have here today to show you is the actual outdoor enclosure that I have. I also purchased that outdoor enclosure from RAKwireless. So basically what I'll be doing, and I'll do another video once I get it and I actually get the miner. Once I get that up on the wall, then I'm going to be doing PoE, power over Ethernet. I'm going to run an Ethernet cord out and power the unit outside in an enclosure. So that's why, if I didn't do it that way, my antenna cable would have had to be 30, 40 foot long, which there's a calculator out there, you can find that on my website too, that actually shows you your signal loss. And you don't want to do that, so you always want to be as short as you can. So at any rate, so let's get this thing installed. So we're going to take our mount, and basically what I do is we're just going to line this up, right? Now again, just in case while you're installing it, if something moves or wiggles, you want to have just kind of a reference point. So I always like to mark kind of where my screws are supposed to go. That way again, while I'm installing this, if it moves on me, I have a quick way to go back. So I'm going to take my drill, a couple of these self-tapping metal roof screws, and we're going to get this installed here. Alright, so now that we have that in, basically what we're going to do is we're going to pull this up and figure out the angle that we need. So let's come up, and you want this part to be level, so let's find that. You tighten these bolts down a little bit. And let's crank them in here. Looks pretty good. back down. Alright, now that's good to go. Something I didn't show you on camera, but when I do this actually outside, what I'll do is I'll caulk around all this as well, just to make sure that we don't get any water going into the house. But now that the mounting arm, or the antenna mount, whatever you want to call it, is up and ready to go, next thing we're going to do is we're going to build out our clamp system. Now the reason I didn't use the U-bolts is because, again, the U-bolts just come through, and I just don't like it. I don't think it's strong enough for whatever reason. It's just me personally. But I actually saw in another YouTube video, this guy had a pretty cool setup. So what he did is he took these clamps, and he's going to build out his clamps. So he's got one there, and one there. Put them together. Washer. Nut. Let's put the other one in. And the reason you want carriage bolts is because it's going to fit into that slot. That way when you're tightening down, you don't have to have 2 wrenches in your hand. Alright, so let's get this on where we want it. Stay right about there. Alright, you're going to take your wrench and you're going to tighten this down. Alright, so now we got a secured mount onto the actual arm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take, oops, hang on. Back up just a little bit here. There we go. You're going to want to make sure that the space of the bolts fits both sets of brackets. So once you know that that's good, then you can tighten it down. Okay, second set. 1 and 2. Forgot my washers. On. Put your other bracket on. Couple more washers. Then your lock washers. And your nuts. Alright, so that looks good. Now you want those grooves to end up in these grooves right here on that clamp. This down. And here's your antenna. So now what we do is now we jump in, we put in our lightning arrestor. Just like that. Now this is where you're going to take your ground wire and I'm not going to actually spool this all the way out. But what you would do is strip off the end. Like that. Now there's a little red clamp in here. We're going to back this out. And what you do is you actually clamp this on there. Now again, I only have one of these, so I'm not going to do this right now because I'm actually going to be doing it outside. But just to kind of show you, so you would crimp this down and then you reattach back to the lightning arrestor. Like so. And then you run your wire down into the wall and then down to where your grounding rod's at. Alright, so there's that. And then from there, I mean, all you're going to do is you're going to grab your wire. This is your antenna cable. And same thing. Just going to hook it up. Like so. Now, my setup again, I'm going to have the outdoor enclosure, so once that comes in, then I'll be able to mount the outdoor enclosure on the side of my house, and then I'll run this down and into my enclosure. And then what we'll end up doing is we'll end up putting some zip ties and everything and get those going good. Now, just to kind of show you real quick, again with these ties, what you can do is, let's say I'm hooking up my ground wire. What I would do is zip tie it on a little bit, not all the way. And then you can take these screws that I was talking about. Right? You just screw these in wherever you're trying to connect. Where's it? There you go. So again, then this will run down the side of the house into the grounding bar in the ground. That way we make sure that we don't, have any static electricity build up, or if lightning were to strike, then we're properly grounded. So yeah, so that's the real, 1,000-foot look at how to get this thing installed. Again, your setup might be a little bit different than mine. They're pretty much the same, just some of your connectors and things might be a little bit different. But you just got to kind of consider what it is that you're looking to do and what components you have, or what's available to you, and get this thing installed. Now, in my next episode, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go outside and I'm going to shoot a time lapse of me doing this, so you can kind of see the whole process outside. So once again, guys, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking me out. If you like what you saw today, hit that subscribe button, turn on those alerts. If you would be so kind and consider donating to the channel so I can continue to produce this stuff, I greatly appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.